And then we have a fingerling that we're growing called Prince of Orange. These are unwashed. You don't typically, even after you harvest your potatoes, don't wash them. It reduces the shelf life. You can brush the dirt off of them, especially harvest your potatoes when the soil is dry. Don't do it when it's really like sticky wet. But just brush the dirt off of them and then stick them in storage. Wash them right before you eat them instead. Same thing here, these haven't been washed. What I want to do is I want to induce my potatoes to start growing before I plant them. You've seen them do that in your cupboard, in your pantry. The eyes on the potato are what's going to turn into the plant that grows above ground, and it's going to be the root system for the new plant that's going to grow. But if I have cold soil, like if I go outside right now and I put these in the ground, the soil is actually cold. It's been cool here the last couple weeks. It rained especially. It was a cold rain. And so this is not the right temperature right now for a potato to germinate. So what we did is I took all my seed potatoes and I put them in the back of my delivery truck. It's a box truck. And I shoved a heater in there and I turned the temperature up to 70, 80 degrees. And I make the potatoes think that it's turning into spring. They don't need any sunlight because they'd be below ground anyway. They're not going to see sunlight. And just in the last week, they've been in the box, you can see that the eyes are starting to develop on the potato plant. And some of them a little bit more than others. This is a little bit bigger here. I'm going to let the eyes grow until they all look at least like that. Even if they were 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch tall, sticking off the potato, that's fine with me. You don't let them get too long, because then when you plant them, you break those sprouts off, and then you set the plant back, and it hurts it more than helps it. But if you got good, healthy eyes growing, the thing is about seeds is once they start to sprout, the plant's going to grow. It's the germination temperature. Matthew talked to you about it earlier. It's the germination temperature that's really critical. Once the plant's germinating, the seed's germinating, the plant is going to keep growing, no matter what the temperature is outside, unless it's too cold. So they call this pre-sprouting or chitting. You can't see it on the board there, but C-H-I-T-T-I-N-G. And that's just pre-sprouting the potatoes in a warm, dark spot.
How long did you do that for?
A couple weeks will get them going.
Okay.
So like we want to plant ours by March 15th. So I could have started February 15th, but whoever that is.
So if we wanted to plant potatoes, would we need to do that?
It'll definitely help, yes. Okay. Yep. So then the second thing I want to do is I want to decide how many of these I'm going to cut up. Now this is what they call a single drop. That's the farming lingo for it. That means I plant this potato whole. However, my blue potato, he's too big. I want to cut him in half. And I can cut some of these other ones in half too. And what I want to do is I want to cut it without cutting through the eyes, if that's possible. In some cases, you may not be able to do that. But I'm going to cut this potato in half. I want to make sure that I have at least golf ball size on each half. And then I want you to look at that potato on the inside. Isn't that pretty?
Yes.
Really pretty potato. Now that I've cut this, I don't want to put it in the ground yet. I want to let that cut surface heal a little bit. It'll naturally, even if you do nothing with it, it'll callus over, almost like a callus on your finger. It'll toughen up and get real thick right there. I'm going to do one extra step, and this is a little bit of dusting sulfur. And I'm just going to take the potato and I'm going to dip it down in the sulfur. The sulfur is antibacterial and antifungal, and it'll keep the potato a little bit more protected from fungal rot, bacterial rot once you plant it in the ground. Then I'm going to take the potato when we plant it, remember 4 inches deep, about 12 inches apart, rows 30 inches apart. I'm going to plant these cut side down. If I plant them cut side up and I put water on it, the water is going to sit on that flat cut surface right there, and it's going to want to make that potato rot a little bit. So I'm going to always put my cut side down right here.
So can you buy that sulfur stuff at like Orchard Supply or something like that?
I don't know if Orchard Supply has it, but you should be able to buy it at maybe a lawn and garden center, local nursery, maybe have a little, or just dusting sulfur off of Amazon. I bought a 50-pound bag, which is way more than you guys would ever need. In fact, 50-pound bag lasts us several years.
Is that different than that powdered stuff called root hormone or something like that? Okay.
Yeah. So I'll go through this one more time. I want to let my potatoes start to sprout for a couple of weeks at about 70, 80 degrees before I cut them. When I cut them, I'm going to let them sit for a couple days and for this cut to heal over before I plant it in the ground. And if you want to go the extra step of sulfuring these as well, that would be fine.
You sulfur them right when you cut them?
Yep. Once I plant them, this is the hard part, is you have to wait. It'll take a couple weeks for the plants to actually come up out of the ground. And especially if you're a new gardener, you're going to be wondering, did I do it right? Are they there? Did I kill them? Are they alive? Are they coming? And every year it's like no fail. I always go out and I dig up potatoes just to see what they're doing and how far the roots have grown and all this other stuff. You know, nature's amazing. If you plant it right and you do the things that we've shared with you here, you're going to get potatoes. It'll take them a couple weeks, but they'll be there. Now, when you harvest your potatoes, again, depending on your variety, 60 days later, 120 days later, you're going to go out there with, say, a digging fork or a shovel, and something that's really, really important. Can I pick on you?
Okay.
Wait, hold on. I'll give you one. By the way, if you work with sulfur, be careful with it, unlike me getting it on the floor. It's extremely irritable to the eyes, and you don't want to breathe it in. It's fine like this. It doesn't naturally, it's kind of cakey, but just be careful. It would really, really burn.
How do you dispose of it then?
I put it back in the bag and reuse it.
Oh.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. So she's our potato growing in the ground. And when I come to dig up my potatoes months later, there's this temptation to stick your shovel in the ground right here. And I don't want to do that because I don't want to cut my potato in half. So I'm going to take my digging fork or my shovel, and I'm actually going to come out away from the base of the plant and come down underneath the plant. So I'm going to come in this way, and what I'm going to do is use my shovel kind of like a pry bar, a lever. And I'm actually going to push down on the handle and lift the potatoes up like this because I don't want to cut them. If you cut them, you have to eat them right away. Which kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, unless you like raw potatoes. So that's the goal there. So potatoes down on the ground, come back a little bit with your shovel, try to get down underneath, and they might be further out than you think they would be. Remember your hill. Your hill might be a couple inches across, growing down like this. So you're going to have to come in down under here and pry those things up like that so you don't cut them. And again, as I mentioned, don't wash them when you're done. You can put them in some crates, milk crates or something. You can store them. And we don't have time to go over storage of potatoes, but generally cool, semi-damp, dark place. More sunlight, or definitely don't want sunlight even in storage. The potatoes will turn green if they're exposed to light, and you'll have bitter potatoes. So I know we don't have root cellars very often in America anymore, but someplace it's kind of cool, dark.
Put them in the fridge then?
You can, but refrigerators are usually too cold for potatoes. We keep our potatoes at about 55 degrees. If you get much colder than that, it converts the starches into sugars inside the potato, and you get a very different flavor on your potato. And you probably have noticed that in the store sometimes. Potatoes, like you've had them before, same variety, that cook a little funny. They may have been too cold in storage somewhere along the way. Your cupboards are okay depending on how you keep the temperature in your house. And depending on the variety, some potatoes store a lot better than others, a lot longer than others. As you've had potatoes in your pantry that have sprouted before, you got to remember that if it's, how would I say it? Think of the time of the year that you're buying your potatoes. If you're buying potatoes at this time of the year, no one in the United States is harvesting potatoes right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're eating potatoes that were harvested sometime last summer, or depending on where they were grown, maybe even a little bit before that. What we do here on our farm is we grow our spring crop, harvest it in June. We will eat off and sell those potatoes until we get our fall crop harvested in December. And we'll do the same thing. We plant our crop in September, we harvest it in December, and we live off those potatoes until we plant again come March. And that's the way that works. And so depending on the variety you select and how well they store, you got to think about where you're going to keep them in your house or garage or basement or whatever. So, any questions?
I have a question, because like you have those potatoes, and you're planting potatoes, right?
Yes.
So where are we gonna get the potatoes? Because Johnny's seeds would have seeds.
Okay, great clarification. There are no potato seeds available for sale. You plant potatoes.
I was gonna say, once your things start rotting in your pantry, just plant.
That's your seed.
Why
Potatoes
you don't
have,
have any yet?
there's plenty available on the market. You get them off the internet, that type of thing. Yeah.
You just buy the whole potato, not a
You,
seed.
you buy the whole potato. Potatoes have been bred so long that very, very few potato plants actually ever flower and produce a true seed. All potatoes are propagated from potatoes. So the potato produces a plant that produces another potato that produces a plant that produces another potato.